So the point of this video discussion is to go over with you on a face-to-face talk about sort of the whole process of creating my project, um, what we've done, why we've done it, inspirations behind it, and sort of where I plan on going from here. So got a little list to my side of things I want to cover, just so I cover all bases and I don't forget. So if I refer to something to my side, that's why. So let's just jump right into it. So with the hows and whys of the project design. So let's firstly go over why we made it. So this time round, myself and Matt, we've worked together multiple times in the past, and we know that we work well together now. But something that we've always sort of struggled with was coming up with a proper solid idea that we stick with throughout the whole project. Because with projects in the past, for example, we've done an aeroplane project that started as just being a simulation of a airplane going down, and we were going to cover it all in real time with real rendering and stuff. And it was going to look super realistic. And then the idea changed to being in the kid's mind. So it all turned into Lego pieces with a kid playing with this Lego airplane that we made and stuff like that. And it worked out to be a really, really good project in the end. And we both really enjoyed working on it, going through all the different effects and stuff, learning new things. And the output we made was really good. But we never sort of had the sense of making a project where we were happy with the story all the way through. So we just wanted to do what we planned without changing anything, because we always sort of weren't happy with it. So this time we sat down and we really wanted to think about making a story for a project that we're both invested into, that would really tell a story that sort of transcended the bounds of just the visuals. So what I mean by this is we wanted to tell a story that would invoke emotion within yourself as the audience. So considering multiple avenues, we went with the route of making a piece that would sort of make the audience, make the audience understand and acknowledge the pain of loss, because it's something no one really wants to think about, but is such a real factor in today's environment specifically. Well, not specifically, but as well, due to the COVID-19 crisis, which this was made way before any of this had started kicking off, the concept of it. But we wanted to tell the story of loss. We wanted to tell it in a more unique way instead of just a normal, someone's dying in someone's arms and all that sort of stuff. It's been done, it's been played out, it's done before. So on my blog, you can see, it'll be on my blog, this is just a personal talk, but yeah. On the blog, we've got a key inspiration of a Dead Island trailer. I think it was from 2011. The concept of this was, like I said, someone sort of having their wife or child die, unfortunately, in their arms, and then turn into a zombie and unfortunately kill them. And that's just how it was. Excuse me. There you go. Ignore that noise. Yeah, so that's just how that was. And it told this really sad story about how this family went on holiday and how they were all enjoying the time together, and it was playing in reverse from the worst parts to the good parts. And that's sort of the concept we wanted to implement and then show through a new form of project and in the region of space, because it was something we were both interested in and we haven't really tackled before in terms of a project. We've only sort of dabbled. I've only sort of dabbled in some low gravity simulation last semester for my water sim, and that was only to make it look more realistic, so I had to lower the gravity. So we wanted to tell a story of this astronaut that had gone to space to fix a satellite that had met their untimely demise, unfortunately, because and then they'd left someone back home on Earth. So we wanted to portray sort of the sadness and the sorrow and provoke thought within you about loss and how bad it can be, and sort of you need to appreciate everything you've got before it's gone, because this character that we've established to be real through how we've presented the piece of a playback, we've sort of presented that they have kids, they have a family, you've got pictures floating about of their time together, as well as a video recording that gets shattered and taken away. They will never have the chance to say goodbye, and even though it's a fictional character, it still applies to a lot of people in real life. So we wanted to tell a story that could feel real in the regions of what it's making you feel. But yeah. So with this clear sort of project path in mind, we've managed to stay on the route that we wanted to take. We haven't diverted or divulged into doing anything else, adding extra story elements or anything. We've kept exactly to what we wanted to make, which has been a change, and it's been nice because we have had a clear focus. So the production has gone as smoothly as it physically could, because we both understood what we wanted to achieve. We talked it out, we storyboarded it, we did all the shots, and we proper solidified it at the start this time, and it gave us a clear objective. So I think that's the hows and whys. So I'm going to talk about next sort of the inspirations that we've had, and then I'm going to talk about the effects that we've implemented. So this is more of a personal, this is not me and Matt, we both did our own research. For myself, the inspirations for this piece, I like to look at pieces as a whole, whether it be short films or like actual AAA films, because even though sort of like there's a director or something that thinks of the idea, nothing is made on your own, basically. At least in AAA. I keep saying AAA like it's games. At least in Hollywood films, there we go. Nothing's made on your own. So I like to look at all these films and TV series and all that stuff as a bigger whole of something that I, in a group with Matt, could try and recreate or make something that can stand up to them for the level we are at. So for me, a big inspiration for this piece was Gravity, because that film basically captures all of what we're trying to create, and obviously a higher budget and higher like production time, and it's a Hollywood film and we're making a student film, but just the sort of the simulation aspects of Gravity, such a key influence to me, because it covers a lot of shatter simulation, and that was one of my main parts of this semester. Watching Gravity back before we fully started working on this, I went through it and you could see like the shots of like stuff colliding with their satellite and making it explode, and sort of how the like what they call solar panels of the satellite go floating and tearing to pieces, and you've got all these different little pieces of this shatter going everywhere with like explosions and smoke and stuff. I just thought it was really, really cool. And that's just something I wanted to make. We got the concept of the space, and I've got this inspiration of wanting to represent in my way like something that's as good as what they've made with all this budget and stuff. And I think I managed to do it in regards, because I shattered the satellite, and I'll move on to that in my effects part in a little minute. But yeah, I just thought Gravity specifically was such an amazing inspiration, as it sort of it not something I never thought I'd do for this, was watching Gravity back made me question the realism of the film, whether or not the shatter and the explosion and stuff could actually happen. So that drove me to do even more research into the realism of the film Gravity and the explosions and all stuff like that, which is something I never thought I'd do, because obviously we're working in a new environment, which is space. It's got zero gravity, there's no atmosphere, So that led me to do research into, could this actually happen, or is this just a big Hollywood sort of effect that's being implemented just cause? And it turns out things like explosions can happen in space. They're very, very small. Well, they're not small, but they're very short, is what I mean, because of the limited oxygen. The shatter of the satellite would produce enough oxygen for combustion and explosion. It'd be for like 2 seconds, and that'd be it. Well, I thought that was really cool. My inspiration, one of the inspirations of the project, furthered the research and the realism of the project, which is something I never thought I'd do. Because obviously you think you know how stuff works based on your experience or the media, and sometimes you're wrong. And it's nice to sort of go back and reevaluate like your values of like, am I right or am I wrong? Because now I've got stuff to back it up. And then just another inspiration really for me was the whole series on Netflix of Love, Death and Robots. Just the fact that small VFX teams could make such amazing visual spectacles is ridiculous. Like there's no way at this point in time I can make something like that on my own. Now I'm not saying, I think maybe myself and Matt, if we had enough time and we had another idea like we've got now, we had the right equipment and the render farm and stuff, we could make something that looked that good. It'd just take a while. And Love, Death and Robots, specifically the space one, which is called The Helping Hand, which again is very similar to the project we're making, with someone being stuck in space in like a situation they didn't expect to find themselves in, is it's another great inspiration and shows like, even though these ideas are similar, they can all take a different sort of direction. The character in this story in Love, Death and Robots, even though they lose an arm because they have to break it off, they live. They get a happy ending as a payout. So although it invokes like fear in you, it doesn't make you think about what would have happened, like what happens if she dies, what does she leave behind. So I think having other sources like Gravity and the Love, Death and Robots Helping Hand combining together to show what's been done before and how to do it and make it look realistic and well, taking the artistic styles from both of them and combining them to make our project, which was going to be photoreal but ended up being stylized as an ambient occlusion for like reasons of we didn't have enough time in the render farm, but more because we wanted to make something that was stylized and it stood out. And no one really sees ambient occlusion renders as like the final thing, but they look really nice. Myself and Matt both agreed that like we like how it looks in black and white. It's sort of, it's just different, and we wanted to be different this semester. And with the ambient occlusion renders, I've included certain sections that were in colour to make them stand out, like the blood coming from the astronaut's nose or the explosions in the background. And by doing this ambient occlusion render with these key parts, you can really sort of pick out the parts that you want people to look at, and it draws focus to different parts of simulations and stuff. Moving on to simulations, I want to talk about the effects we've used, and well, at least the effects I've used and focused on this semester, because it's been nice. It's been an eye-opening experience, really. Of how I can still further develop as a visual effects artist. So throughout my whole career of university, more to the second year and onwards, I think I've known deep down that I want to do stuff with simulations. And even though I like to compose scenes and stuff, and I'll do the edits, and that's cool. I like doing sound design and that and all that. I like doing simulations. I like making something and it looking cool when it's rendered, like an explosion or a shatter. Or I did last semester like a big water simulation thing. It was really cool. So this semester, I wanted to take my strengths I have, these simulations, and build on them. So obviously, it's a completely different environment with zero gravity. That adds a new sort of a layer to the concept of, do I know what I'm doing? I thought coming into this, I would know exactly what I'm doing for the water simulation I plan to do. I was so wrong. I thought I know exactly what I was doing for the shatter simulation I was doing. So wrong. And I thought I'd still remember how to do pyro simulation. And again, I was so wrong. So it was really cool that I worked on these three types of simulations as my main three. So we got pyro, shatter, and water. It was just really cool to sort of develop my skills to make a simulation that would work realistically in zero gravity. So, for example, the water simulation, I thought I knew exactly what I'd be doing from based on last semester's work. I thought I'd just be making a normal flip fluid animation where the particles would just be separated in space, um, and they'd all float with like when I set the gravity to zero. Did not work at all. It made a big like stringy mess from one point to the other. It was vile. Didn't work. Didn't know what to do. So that's obviously where the research comes in, and I ended up making some like actual zero gravity blobs of water, which you can tell by my face. I'm just actually mad impressed with. It's this specifically I'm so proud of because it was so difficult. There was no tutorials based on how to do it or sort of any tips. Everything. The only thing I found was just a random scene that someone had submitted on the internet, which I had to reverse engineer to sort of understand how it worked. And I've got a time lapse video on my blog showing how I did this process. As I was saying before my recording cut out, unfortunately, yeah, I'm really proud of the water sim I've made this semester. Like I was saying, I had to reverse engineer the project that I'd found online with no help, no tutorials, no one knew how to do it. I couldn't ask anyone for help because it's nothing any of us have ever tackled before. So it was cool to learn how to do that, and it was a lot different than simply, normal making a normal flip fluid, which was making an object and then just transforming it with the shelf tool and all that jazz. It was completely different. It was setting up three separate sort of nodes and stuff. Well, three separate node trees. You got the first node tree that would set up your like shape, so you'd have to scatter and copy to points like an object to that, and then you take that into a dot net that you'd set up with the flip fluid object and stuff like that with the gravity, which you'd set up manually, and then you DOP import that into a different node tree to smooth it out and give it a surface. It was difficult, but it was fun to expand on the knowledge I already thought I had. This semester's definitely been an eye-opener because I knew I wasn't, like, I'm nowhere near, I think, the peak of my potential I could be if I keep learning and I keep working. But it sort of showed me that I could still go a lot further with regards to at least working within simulations within Houdini with parts I want to specialize in. And that's good. It's a nice motivation to keep me sort of going because the university career is unfortunately now over. Moving on to the pyro simulation, it was nice to sort of go back and get a refresher of what pyrosim actually was. The last time I'd done pyrosim, it was with billowy smoke and flames on a tire, and this time it was doing a fireball. And even though it's all in the PyroFX shelf tool, they're all different. They all do different things, and it was cool to sort of come in and change aspects of the fireball to essentially make it look more like a billowy smoke or less like it and have less smoke, and be able to change all the colour with the heat and stuff like that, and the temperature, and how often, like how long the flames last for with like the buoyancy lift and what direction they go in and stuff like that. So it was really cool to sort of just go in and really get into the like deep end of tackling pyrosim instead of like just dabbling around with it like I thought I did, like which I was doing in the second year. Because I thought I knew it, and turns out I didn't. And now I could probably make a pyro sim for you that is just a fireball without referring to my blog or anything else. So I think that's the whole sort of takeaway, isn't it? If I can learn a skill and not need any exterior forces to know how to do it, it's going to help me get a job later on in the industry or just freelancing, and it's going to speed up the process of making stuff. So, and finally, the fracture sim. Oh, this basically, I could argue this is my specialization. Done it now for 2 years, and I really thought I knew everything. Until this year, when I was like, oh, it's obvious that we need it's obvious that I need to do a fracture sim, and I need to do it a different way, because the way I did it with the Voronoi fracture, just it's very obvious. You can tell what it's look like, what it'll look like. So did some research into new forms of fracture, which I don't think existed last time I checked. So Boolean fracture and RBD fracture materials, that sort of stuff. That those two new fracture sims I went through and I tested, and the Boolean ones and the RBD fracture materials, they're unique in the way that you use cutting objects to cut up your geometry that you're going to shatter, and then you can change the interior of what the shatter will look like with like mounting nodes of your cutting object and scattering all the like slicing objects throughout. So it shatters in a unique way that is smoother and both sort of looks nicer when it's shattered instead of the little crappy pieces that Voronoi makes, which is what I usually work with. But even after learning all of these new techniques, I managed to expand upon my own previous knowledge just by self-discovery of working again back with the Voronoi, because it was just what worked the best after I'd done multiple tests with these new forms of fracture sim, because this object was just so like varied with its shapes and sizes in parts that it just didn't work with these new sort of fracture methods. It just made it sort of slice apart and wasn't good. But with Voronoi I managed to alter it so I could get a really good variation in piece size, partly because of the object itself, the satellite, because it was so varied that if I didn't have to use just one object to shatter it, I used 3 different objects all around to shatter it as the static objects, and it made these really large pieces of debris floating off with, as well as the little pieces and the little thin pieces. And it was just cool to go back and learn all of this stuff that would be relevant for the project and for my future, and implement it again and learn and just enhance my knowledge is the word I'm looking for. There's not much more I can say on the effects I've used. Moving on to what I think I should probably talk about last, which is what I'm planning on doing after. As I mentioned, I've all these skills I'm acquiring, or I've learned. Obviously, they're for the project, but the exterior motive is I'll need them if I want to be a VFX artist, and that's exactly what I plan on doing. From immediately right now, this is basically the day before submission. I thought I'd do this at the end so I could properly recap. I'm already thinking about doing my own project, which will be nice, to like work independently for once. It is nice working with Matt, but I think I need to prove to myself that I can do stuff on my own. And I've already asked my lecturer for about sort of advice on how I go about doing that, and any sort of assets and stuff that I could borrow. I'll just show here. I've got a little. It's because don't have to write it down. I can go back to doing my just little notes and stuff on here with drawings and stuff about what I want to make. So here we go. We've got my nice, really bad drawing of going to be a Marine. He's going to be in a war zone. And I only plan to make like a little slow-mo 10-second clip, but I want to do some pyrosim. I want to learn how to do simulations of bullets and the smoke that come off them, and some more fracture sim in the background. So I want to have multiple layers of a foreground, a midground, and a background. Foreground will be the Marine firing his gun. Midground is going to be something like a car and on fire in the back, like behind him, and then we have a crumbling building in the background. And then I want to render those out as all 3 different passes, combine them all together, and then sort of bring them back in to After Effects and work on making sure I'm working on adding like extra stuff on top of it. So I want to stylize it in a way where it looks like it's drawn. So maybe I could look into something on Houdini with maybe some types of texture in there, but that's for the bridge when I come to it. And as I said, I still plan on working on VFX. I've already applied for a job for Telltale, the company that I think it's Telltale, Traveller's Tales. as a VFX junior. So there's the company that work on Lego games, which is amazing. Not that I'll hear anything back from it, but I just wanted you to know that I'm already trying to get myself out there to do stuff. And yeah, I'm hoping I can take the skills I've learned from here and apply them to my journey further on. And I want the university career that I've made for myself to be useful in my future, and not for it to not be a waste. So yeah, I think that's all I wanted to talk about. Like I said, or that might have been the other take of it, I've got more detailed videos on my blog talking about my actual final render in more detail. So that's all in another video, as well as I've got a talk with myself and Matt in a video going over the project and talk about what we liked and what we've done on all that sort of stuff together. So if you want to see those are on the research and development, I don't know which side it'll be, research and development blog entry. But yeah, I think that's enough for this. So thank you for watching and see you later.